Hello, everyone. Welcome to session number 3. Welcome back. If you've been there before, if you hear or listened our previous 2 sessions, you know that we talked about genes, we talked about epigenetics, and one of the areas on those topics that was really important was nutrition. So today we are going to start talking about how to start your wellness journey. Even if you don't know anything about nutrition, today we're going to talk about simple things that you can do on your daily basis to improve your food choices and the way you eat to impact deeply in your health. If you're there watching and you think why I should improve my diet, why I should do something about my nutrition, well, think about your body as your own house, right? So anything that you put in your house is going to make it look better and it's going to make it stronger. So what nutrition supports? If we think about a good diet, a healthy diet, nutrition supports energy, mental clarity, sleep, happiness, mental health. All that can be supported by nutrition. And just going back a few sessions and talking about also something very important that is about thinking about diseases and different conditions that we can develop. We do have the power to choose to have food that is packed with nutrients, with vitamins, with minerals that can help our body to function better and to maintain those genes that are probably conditioning us to have different diseases in an off mode. So imagine that we are talking about someone that do not have any idea where to start. First of all, I want to clarify that these are going to be just simple advice to have more guidance of what to do about your food, what maybe food choices, what to have on your plate. But my first recommendation is going to be if you have any issues, any condition that you need to treat through nutrition, I recommend to go and get and seek for a local nutritionist, a local registered dietitian that can help you further according to your specific condition. So, if we think in general, what should be your choice? I always say this, and I'm going to repeat it. It's not about doing a vegan diet. It's not about a vegetarian, keto, paleo. It's not about that. It's just about a simple rule that is doing whole and processed foods. That means that you're not going to choose something that is already packed, that it has a label with a lot of ingredients that you cannot even read. The idea is to do your food from scratch. So to have different meals during the day, you should have different type of foods to make them balanced. I cannot talk about how many meals you're going to do or at what time you're going to start your day or how your breakfast is going to be, because that will depend a lot on your goals, will depend on your age, if you do exercise or not, your possibilities. But we are going to talk about general foods that anyone should include in their plate if they want to have a healthy diet. Starting with fruit and vegetables. Think about rainbow. Think about having a lot of colors in your plate. I understand that sometimes it's difficult to have too many different vegetables or too many different fruits because not all the fruits or not all the vegetables are in season. But I always talk about this. There's different possibilities. First of all, going to the grocery store, going to your local store and trying to find whatever is in season, because that is going to be fresh and probably is going to come from local markets. It's not going to be frozen or be maybe storage in a supermarket for years until they release that into the for sale, right? So try to find your local provider and fresh vegetables and fruits that are in season. That is a good rule to take into consideration. And when it comes to colors, I know that it's not that easy to, to put 20 different vegetables or 6 different fruits on your smoothies. That actually I don't recommend to do that anyways, because that could be too many fruits. I honestly recommend between 1 and 2 fruits a day. But think about this. Instead of doing 20 different things in a day, try to rotate your vegetables and your fruits during the week. Okay, so maybe today you have an apple and berries as fruits. Tomorrow you will have a little bit of banana and maybe pineapple, and then you will have maybe kiwi and berries again. Try to rotate. The same with vegetables. Okay, try not to eat all day, every day the same, because everyone that wants to eat healthy tends to go into a rut. But that is because you want to eat healthy, and you know that salad is healthy, but if you eat the same salad every day, that eventually is not going to be healthy anyways. Okay, let's go with proteins. Lean proteins is the best option. This means that it could be, we are talking about animal proteins for sure, but it can also include plant-based proteins. If we talk about animal proteins, when we talk about lean proteins or clean proteins, we are trying to consider that these are going to be coming from local providers, local farmers, trying to avoid industrial meats, industrial chicken, because in these animals, they can use antibiotics, they can use hormones that you don't want to put in your body. So we can talk about maybe chicken, we can talk about fish, we can talk about red meat, but all coming from good, clean sources. If you have the possibility where you live to get grass-fed beef, grass-finished, or maybe organic chicken, that will be the best option. When it comes to fish, we need to consider another thing, and that is the farming versus the wild-caught fish. Farming right now is very expensive when it comes to fish industry. So now you can read in labels that they tell you that fish, it says like organic farming. So you say, okay, you think, okay, well, this should be good, right? Because it's organic. But they're trying to trick you. But because that means that those fish are not in the wild. I mean, they're not caught in the wild. They are in farms, but in open waters. Those fishes are not able to go in the wild and eat whatever they eat. They are fed. They're fed processed foods, and typically those fishes can also have infections. So they give them antibiotics for that to prevent those issues. So if you read somewhere like organic farming, don't buy that, because that means farmed fish, and you don't want to have that. If you want to have fish, you have two options. You can buy frozen fish, like labeled like wild caught fish. For example, salmon is a very, very common option. But if not, if you live by the sea, if you have the chance to buy from local fishermen, you can try to buy the catch of the day, and that probably is going to be much better than what you're going to find in the supermarket. So when we talk about proteins, we are not talking about only animal. We can talk about plant-based protein as well. Well, which foods we are talking about when we talk about plant-based protein? We are talking about legumes like chickpeas, beans, lentils. Those are very, very high in protein. The idea is for you to have them from scratch. Try to avoid buy them in a can. You can buy them, soak them, and then cook them the other day, or the day after. And that will probably help you to have more variety during the week, not to eat maybe animal protein every day. And I don't want to forget about eggs. Very complete protein. The organic eggs, for example, in this case, are much easier to find nowadays than maybe an organic meat. So organic meat is still very expensive, but organic eggs right now are available for everyone. They're almost in all stores, even the regular supermarkets. So I recommend for you to have eggs as a very, very complete protein, but organic only. Another protein that I want to talk about is dairy. There's a lot of confusion nowadays around dairy, because we don't know if we should have dairy, if we should avoid dairy. But there's a simple rule we should know about dairy that is very important. When it comes to dairy, there's a main ingredient that can make those products to be allergenic or pro-inflammatory. And this is the protein. The protein is called casein, and there's two different types of caseins. There's type 1 and type 2. So what happens with regular dairy? The regular dairy that you find in the supermarket from regular cows. That is typically type A1 dairy. And this is a very big protein that is intended to be digested by baby cows. They do have very big stomachs, up to 2 actually. So that is not a protein that is well digested by the human tract. So you eat that and that is digested partially. So that creates a little bit of inflammation on the gut. You start accumulating part of that protein on the gut lining. You start building up inflammation, and that can end up and having a lot of different issues. So the lactose, they ask me about, I do dairy-free, lactose-free dairy, but that is not the problem. Going back, the problem is the protein, the casein. What is the alternative that we have? Besides like having, I don't know, like vegan or plant-based dairy, coconut dairy, almond dairy, the other option is to have another type of dairy that is coming from a different type of cow, that is a small breed of cow. It's a smaller cow that comes from Europe typically. So if you are in the US, America, or South America, or North America, this type of cows come from US. And this is a smaller breed that produce this other type of protein that is called casein type A2. So if you go to the Whole Food store or to the health food store and you see that there's something labeled like A2 cheese or A2 milk or A2 yogurt, this is what I'm talking about. This is a type of casein that is equal to the protein that you find in goats and sheep, and that is the reason why goats and sheep dairy is considered hypoallergenic, because they naturally have this type of protein that is called casein type A2. So my recommendation, if you want to have dairy, is to try to minimize dairy to 3 or 4 times a week, and also choose goat, sheep, or maybe also, if you have that available, A2 dairy. Solution. What about dairy? You should do dairy around 2 to 4 times a week. And the products that I recommend are goat, sheep, or A2 milk, cheese, yogurt, anything that you have available in your local store. That those will be my recommendations to avoid inflammation or either allergies. Now we're going to talk about healthy fats. And it's very important for me to bring this topic today because healthy fats, or fats in general, is something that is considered maybe like not good. People is afraid of eating fats. But if we talk about healthy fats and not bad fats, healthy fats are really good to build up our system, especially the hormone system, the immune system. Is very good for them. They're really good for our brain. So don't be afraid of fats. Choose wisely. What type of fats I'm talking about? I'm talking about avocado. I'm talking about good oils like olive oil, coconut oil. We can talk about ghee. We can talk about we can talk about butter as well, because then you have different options like ghee, that is clarified butter, but also the real good butter that is from like not processed dairy or from organic farming. That will be a good butter, for example, to include. Then we have different situations about fat, like which ones I should use for cooking, which ones I should use for dressings. We can briefly talk about that. There's different type of oils, and some oils are good for cooking and some of them are not, or fats in general. Which ones are considered healthy fats? So we are talking about avocado, we are talking about nuts, we are talking about seeds, we are talking about good oils, we are talking about butter, for example, either the regular grass-fed butter or the ghee, that is a clarified butter. And then when it comes to oils, this is a kind of more complex topic because we have different type of oils. We do have good oils and we do have bad oils. Good oils, I can name some of them, like olive oil, we can name sesame oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, and then on the other hand, we do have soybean oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, canola oil, rapeseed oil. All those oils that I named on the bad side are oils that could increase inflammation in the body, because those are considered pro-inflammatory oils. So you want to avoid them. But the most important thing is to consider that oils are not bad, fats are not bad. We need fat for a lot of processes in the body, especially talking about cholesterol in particular. Eggs, I mentioned eggs on the protein section, but eggs actually do have a really good healthy fat that is the egg yolk. So if we think about our hormones, if we think about our brain, we need that cholesterol. And another very important thing to consider about cholesterol is that one of our main hormones, the one that we need to manage stress, probably you heard about this, that is cortisol. Cortisol is made up out of cholesterol. So we need cholesterol in our life, we need good fats, so don't be afraid and choose wisely. And lastly, we talk about whole grains as something that, as foods that we can include a few times a week. Consider that I'm not talking to a specific person within a specific condition, I'm just talking in general. So whole grains, what we are talking about, we're talking about quinoa, we are talking about brown rice or white rice, we are talking about amaranth, oats. All these grains are called or so-called whole grains because they're not refined, they do have fiber, so they're a very good source of energy and complex carbohydrates. So we do need those in our week, but the idea is not to overdo them, because of course they can have also a lot of sugar or they can have a lot of calories. We should be careful about them, especially if we have any type of glucose issues. If someone there is watching and it has diabetes or pre-diabetes or something called insulin resistance, you should be careful about grains. That doesn't mean that you cannot have them, but you can consider have them in measured portions. And always a good rule to consider is to combine grains with proteins to avoid that carbohydrates to impact very hard on your glucose levels. Or if you're a vegan or a vegetarian, the idea will be combining those grains with legumes, because legumes and grains, they do not have a complete amino acid profile. So when you combine them, you obtain a complete amino acid profile as you have in animal protein or in an egg, for example. Well, to simplify a little bit this and to wrap up all these things that we've been talking about, if you're starting your wellness journey, there's some rules that you should take in consideration. Simple rules, right? That starting with number 1, limit processed foods. Okay, so if you go to your pantry and you see that you have a lot of different things like cans, packaged foods that you have, and you start seeing ingredients and you can read that there's so many ingredients and things that you cannot even pronounce, so probably that is not really good for you. That is an exercise actually that you can do. You can go into your pantry, you can go into your fridge and check which foods you have on there. Do you have more unprocessed foods, things that you need to do food from scratch, or you do have a lot of jars and cans and packaged foods? The first rule that you need to consider is try to limit processed foods and foods that you have a lot of added sugars or a lot of preservatives on it. That are these ones that we are talking about that you need to try to avoid. Let's talk about rule number 2, hydration. Hydration. It's so important to drink water. Don't forget about drinking water. And something else that I want to add, that besides being the recommendation to drink 8 to 10 glasses of water a day, something that we should not forget about is doing also minerals with the water, because the minerals also has a big impact and a very important role in hydration. And when we talk about minerals, what we are talking about, should I buy a supplement that says minerals or should I do something else? Well, something very simple that you can do at home is to grab some salt. We're not talking about regular salt or processed salt or refined salt. We're talking about raw salt like Celtic salt or Himalayan salt or sea salt. That type of salt that is really low in sodium, and it contains up to 45 different minerals. Honestly, I haven't been recommending Himalayan salt, that is a pink one, for a long time already, like for a few months, because there's some information about the extraction of the Himalayan salt that can contain, for that reason, some metals on the salt. But if you have other options like Celtic or sea salt, I probably will go with those. How we use it? We just use a very little amount in the water, or if you're going to practice a sport or you're going to gym and you know that you're going to sweat a little bit more, so you can use up to a quarter of teaspoon in a liter of water, more or less. You can play it a little bit with that. It doesn't really taste salty because it's not really high in sodium. It's going to be a game changer for you. That is rule number 2. Number 3, mindful eating. This is so important because we were talking about stress, we were talking about emotion, about environment, how important that is. Well, when you're going to eat, the idea is to try to avoid having a lot of distractions around. Try to disconnect from your phone, try to not to have screens. Maybe you can have some music, but the idea is to connect with you if you're alone, with yourself, with your family, with your friends, whatever you're eating with. That is mindful eating. Is enjoy your food, think about what you're doing, the action of eating, and that is going to impact very, very deeply in the way you digest and you absorb those nutrients as well. So mindful eating, remember that. So now I'm going to share something that is really important to understand what you should put in a plate. Very simple. We're going to do like a meal planning, very simple, okay? Try the following method. You're going to grab a plate and you're going to use half a plate for veggies, all colors of veggies. You're going to use a quarter of the plate for a lean protein. Remember all the lean proteins that we mentioned before. You're going to use a quarter of the plate for whole grains or also starchy vegetable that can include a potato, a sweet potato, yuca, or whatever is available where you live. And then you're going to add on top of that a healthy fat. That could be using some raw oil on it, or you can use avocado, or you can use some butter. We mentioned before as good healthy fats. All those things should be in a plate to be completely balanced and packed of different nutrients. So to remember, food quality tips that I'm going to give you: fresh, seasonal produce, pasture-raised, grass-fed meats. That means grass-fed, grass-finished, organic meats. Wild-caught fish. Remember that if it says organic farming, is not good because it's still farm. Avoid farming. Use gentle cooking methods, meaning that it is to use steaming. Maybe you can use the air fryer, but try to avoid grilling, which could be carcinogenic. So you feel overwhelmed right now about all the things that you heard? Don't worry. Just keep it simple. As I said before, small step for big changes. You have to be patient. Start with simple changes, like if you were drinking soda, try to switch one of those sodas to water. If you were not eating fruits, try to incorporate one fruit at a time into your day. If you were not eating salads and maybe you were doing more grains than normal, so in that case you can start incorporating maybe one salad a meal. Keep it simple. That is the goal rule, okay? Focus in nourishing and not restricting, because something that is restricted is always going to be considered negative, and we want a positive mindset about nutrition and healthy eating habits. And I have a present for you. You can download your guide for simple step to healthier habits that I have designed for you to have a guide how to start a guide how to incorporate these small things, these small changes about nutrition in your life. And don't forget, we are going to see each other in the next session. See you. Bye bye.